All right, I think we're at the time has started, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who's here today. I'd like to welcome you to the first episode of the State of the Network series. My name is Melvis, and I'm the head of the Canton Foundation. This series is about what's real, the builders, applications, and flows that are already live across the Canton ecosystem. Each episode will start with a quick look at what's happening across the network, the new apps, new validators, new integrations, and then we'll sit down with builders who are using Canton in production to solve real problems in finance. Feel free to leave questions in the comments and we'll try to answer them at the end. For anyone new here, Canton is where the power of global finance meets real value of blockchain on the only public chain with privacy that actually works at scale. It's trusted by leaders like Goldman Sachs, BNP Paribas, the DTCC, Broadridge, and Circle, amongst many others, because it's where real finance and institutional grade crypto can finally operate together on a regulated grade rails. On Canton, assets move 24/7 with atomic settlement and privacy that you control. Today, applications on Canton already secure more than $6 trillion of tokenized assets, including over $280 billion a day in US Treasury repos trades. Privacy is built in from the base layer. Transactions are only visible on a need-to-know basis, giving institutions the confidence to bring their most valuable assets on-chain. And because it's decentralized with control, participants transact on open rails while still meeting the compliance, governance, and security standards global markets demand. The result is simple. Trades that used to take days now settle instantly, and the world's largest pools of highly liquid assets, from US Treasuries to stablecoins and digital cash, flow freely 24/7. And now for some quick announcements and updates about what's happening on the network before we jump into our main guests and having a discussion with Evan and Yanis. Most recently, the Canton Foundation was busy on the road over the past 3 weeks in Asia, engaging with both TradFi and crypto partners during the Korea Blockchain Week, Singapore's Token 2049, and most recently, facilitating Japan's first Canton meetup. All of these activities have been in focus because the network is also preparing for centralized exchange listings in the coming weeks to months. In addition to this, the Canton network on-chain applications and growth has been very, very vibrant. Community members are building and launching applications across verticals such as tokenization platforms, and applications, token swaps, borrow lend applications, and also some dark pool apps as well. There are currently over 35 featured apps on the network, and the Canton network transaction activity has been incredibly increasing to the sense that it's currently sitting and reaching levels of number 5 and 6 on DeFi Llama compared to other large blockchain networks where just recently around October 10th, the daily fees on network were around $500,000. The foundation is also growing as well. We now have 45 members within the foundation. And most recently, over the past month and a half, we've gotten 9 new members, including the Thai, Temple, Lay0, Onera, Block Demon, Send Wallet, and also Cantor 8. In addition to this, within the premier membership group, the top global prime broker within crypto, LTP, also joined the network. In regards to the validator stats, we now have about 33 validators in the network and over 600 validators. And this is a 300% growth since July, where we only had 203 validators. In addition to this, node as a service providers are now at 17, which is an addition of 7 new node as a service providers on the network. And now, without further ado, I'd like you to meet the 2 guests of the show today. Joining me are 2 incredible builders who are truly a strong core representative of the momentum we're seeing across Canton network. First, Yanis, I'd like to introduce you, and please say a few words about yourself, and then we'll move on.
Hi guys, I'm Yanis, the founder of 5North. 5North is a firm that is exclusively focusing on building infrastructure on Canton. We have an ecosystem fund that invests exclusively on Canton-related projects. We built the first wallet of the network called Loop. We have an explorer called Lighthouse, and a new app coming up, which is an ID verification on the network. This all started as a happy accident because as a firm we are a hedge fund technically, that we trade decentralized like instruments, and we found ourselves not using blockchain networks for deposits and withdrawals because we didn't want to expose our alpha. We didn't want to get front run. And the happy accident was that I met the founder of Canton, Yuval. He explained me what Canton is and said, okay, great. We're going to dedicate tons of resources in making sure that the network succeeds, and we gradually move our hedge fund activity in the network. And apparently it's working. So.
Thank you, Yanis. And we'll dive deeper into some of those topics that you just highlighted. And next, Evan, the co-founder and CEO of Temple. Can you please give a quick introduction?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Melvis. Yeah, I'm Evan, founder and CEO of Temple Digital Group. We're building a privacy-focused technical stack for trading capital markets. The flagship offering essentially is a trading platform that blends the best features from traditional trading systems with key, advantages of DeFi, such as real-time atomic settlements using non-custodial wallets. On top of that, and the best part is that it's private. There's MEV protection baked in, and also it will be amongst the first trading venues to buy Canton Coin. And currently we've crossed 9,500 users. We've had registrations open for about a week and a half at this point. And our goal is to support both crypto and other financial instruments and markets, which we will be sharing shortly after product launch, essentially.
Amazing. Thank you. And yeah, as everyone is settling in and ready to listen to the upcoming discussion, I'll jump straight in and we'll alternate questions and hope this will be a fun discussion. So to start out with, Yanis, why did you fully dedicate an entity with so many different business lines solely to the Canton ecosystem? As you mentioned in the beginning, 5North is a multifaceted entity and a core contributor to the network, such as you're a super validator, an ecosystem investor, part of the Canton board, Canton Foundation board, and building apps across the network. So why is it that you dedicate so much to Canton? Even though if you look across the ecosystems of blockchain and crypto, there's Solana, ETH, Avalanche, and even thinking about privacy, you got Alio, ZK Sync, Midnight, so many to consider. Please share some color on this.
There are a few things here. First is our personal view as a firm of how this ecosystem is going to look like in the next few years. And the way we see it is we're going to have 3 things. One is going to be Bitcoin, that it's doing its own thing. We all know what it is. It's a prime asset, pristine asset right now. We're probably going to have few EVM and Sol compatible blockchains that experiments will happen. New things will be going to be created like ETH and Solana and stuff like that. And then we're going to have Canton. And Canton is going to be the thing that's going to bridge the TradFi with blockchain, because it's the only technical solution I've seen since 2013 that I've been in the space, me and my team, that's built bottom up with privacy in mind, and not just a public blockchain that creates patches and solutions to fill the hole that privacy, that we don't have privacy in a public blockchain. We've seen a lot in the space as investors, and as I said in the introduction, we never used a public blockchain to transfer assets from our firm to exchanges or counterparties, because we didn't feel that it was the right thing to do for privacy plus exposure and stuff like that. With Canton, it was the only case that I really felt that it can preserve what we need to be preserved as a firm, but also if we need to get audited, which we do every year, like every trading firm does, then the auditor won't come up and say, okay, what's going on here? What's the ZK thing? What's ZCAS? That nobody knows what's going on. So for an institution, it's heaven, to be honest. That's why we decided to just dedicate our resources there.
All right. Thank you. And with that, and Evan, on your end, as a builder, what are the core and fundamental components of a network that are critical for the success of a blockchain application? And what is it about Canton that led you and your team to identify that this is where you want to build the trading application?
Yeah, I've been in the DeFi space since 2015, started building essentially in 2021. I think that, some of the things that stand out is obviously developer infrastructure, right? SDKs, APIs, all types of documentation and tooling, essentially that eliminates friction. And when I first got introduced to the Canton network, which is essentially earlier this year, I saw this massive opportunity not only to start building early on, but also to make critical contributions to the network, right? Using like all that knowledge from building in the Web3 space previously, but also essentially the economic layer, well-designed tokenomics, incentives that sustain validators and builders, liquidity, and long-term incentivize essentially long-term participation. And you don't see that every day, but for those that are not aware, Canton has by far like one of the most creative, I guess, economic layer compared to any other network, which definitely incentivizes builders, validators, liquidity providers. And once we realized that, we were like, aside of that part, like we were committed because we were sold on the privacy, essentially the compliance auditability of Canton, but then the economic layer for builders is something that can essentially support them early on so they can take off and make essentially big contributions to the network. Governance and upgradability is definitely another one, mechanisms that allow protocol evolution over time without fragmentation. So I think that Canton has all of the above, and that's why we are excited building on it.
Yeah, those are some very strong and interesting points that you bring out. And these are some of the key components about how you think about the foundation and network overall that we are working to put together, in a sense that some of the core tenets that make a network viable and survive over time are the composition of these four things, like applications on the network, assets on the network, the user base within the network, and then lastly, the infrastructure around the network that enables those three core things: apps, assets, and users to come together. And within my intro, as I mentioned, and as Yanis and Evan have put vividly together, is that we initially started out at a fundamental level by enabling the incentives to bring together the infrastructure providers initially to help build and maintain the core aspects of what needs to be in place for this blockchain and ledger to function. So from the validators all the way to RPC providers, and then most recently getting exchanges, bridges, custodians, wallets, oracles all in play. From there, enabling and facilitating the ability for application builders to come on board, as Evan mentioned, having the developer tools and resources, and then also guidance from the core contributors to the network in order to get involved and activated. People like Yanis, who are deeply involved across the network. Then next is the assets. So within the network, very soon we're going to have USDC natively on Canton, other stable coins as well. In addition to, we already have CBTC on the network as well. And so the assets are coming. And then lastly, the incentive alignment, as Evan mentioned, is very, very strong and core and unique to our network in the sense that it's not only the infrastructure providers that get to reap the growth of the network, but over 50% of future rewards also go towards the application providers. In addition to that, too, those are also being distributed to the network participants. We've seen that actively in the network where the Loop wallet, Send wallet, even Evan's application as well have also been distributing incentives and rewards to the users of the network. And this all comes into strong encapsulation into facilitating a strong and vibrant network. And very excited to be talking to you guys and educating more people about what we're doing here. Yanis, next question for you. The Canton network is very, very active today. We have only 24 hours in a day. And so I'm just curious, how do you distribute your time across all of your business activities, from investing to building to network governance? I think on the recent count, you're on the board, the tokenomics committee, accountability committee, and also you're also managing infrastructure as a super validator and a node as a service provider. I don't know, what else am I missing? Like, how do you divvy up
the
your
backlog?
time?
You just don't know the backlog. You just know how big of a backlog there is. Actually, Evan does.
What's the challenging part of your job? Like, there's so much happening in the network, and yeah, how do you make everything fit?
I think there's like, obviously you can't do that yourself. You know, like I have a team that I'm extremely lucky that I'm working with for the last 10 years, most of them. We are not huge. We are like a relatively small team, but everybody is very, very committed and very obsessed with the network. So if I was to do that alone, obviously that not going to happen. You know, it was impossible. So I think the challenging part of this network is your first point, actually. It's the fact that it's growing so much and it's changing, the dynamics change every day. And I have to get these dynamics, translate them into, you know, simple pieces and then feed them to my team so they know what they're doing. Because if you don't have alignment on the team, then nothing's going to work, like especially if you do 10 different things. So I think the challenging part is keeping up with the foundation, with partners like Evan and the other guys, see what they're doing and trying to like distill this down to the very, very basic stuff that we should be doing to support them. That's one thing. And the second, I think, most challenging part is the deal flow we're getting on the fund side to invest in the network. It's crazy. Like I have I honestly I have no idea how many applications we get every day. But this also gives you the momentum of what's coming into the network. And we don't only see like an EVM thing that comes into the Canton. What you see is like things that couldn't be built on an EVM, like a dark pool. How would you do that on an EVM? It's impossible to do. And, you know, stuff like that. So, yeah, pretty much these are the two main challenges, I guess.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, the momentum has been incredible, but looking at it from the point of view of the foundation, it's actually been quite incredible to see how supportive and organic help that everyone within the network is affording to one another, in a sense that just recently at Token 2049, so many people within the network are introducing, inviting, and also providing resources to help their own networks to come on board to Canton Network. Exactly. And it's across the different core tenets that I mentioned, from building applications, bringing on users, bringing on assets, and then also engaging in the infrastructure level. And so just the organic engagement around this has been incredible, in the sense that many people are getting Canton pilled to come onto the network and also join the privacy club, which has been an awesome to definitely see across the ecosystem. I don't know if you've seen that, like how, from your view, what it's been like, considering you're touching upon so many different initiatives.
I think there is one point that we keep forgetting of mentioning, Melvis, which is this network was bootstrapped. There was no pre-mine. There wasn't a huge allocation of tokens that somebody gave to the foundation or XYZ entity to just like create all this. This is all organic. And I think this is part of the fact that the community that joins the network loves it. I think this is a massive drive for it. They know that nobody is like waiting for them, nobody, this network never sold that token to venture capital, never, ever.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. So I don't know if this answered your question, but I think that's, the most interesting part in that I see that feeds the community with enthusiasm, and they keep growing the network themselves.
Yep, definitely. That's been awesome to see. Yeah, so the Canton growth has been very, very incredible and awesome. However, outside looking at the macro level, on Friday, we saw a lot of turmoil and unrelenting volatility due to miscommunication around the U.S.-China trade war saga. Right, there was an misunderstanding in communication or news, and then $20 billion to maybe $50 billion of liquidations occurred. Evan, as you are building a trading infrastructure and on a platform, what was your initial thoughts when this was going on, considering your application will be in the midst of such activities over time within traditional finance and crypto, considering everything is merging into one?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think it was a reminder of how fragile essentially the current crypto market structure still is after all these years. I think that most venues mix custody, trading, settlement, which means that when leverage and wins essentially contagion spreads instantly. I think that at Temple, yeah, exactly. I think that at Temple infrastructure, the infrastructure that we're building essentially will give users real-time visibility into order books, depth, as well as settlement finality. I think that all with basically the privacy preserving and auditable environment that we're building would be more ideal. The goal is not to eliminate volatility in any way, but rather to make sure that user stays essentially protected by trading in a system that's synchronized, transparent, and resilient during those times. For example, like everything we're building on the Temple side on the settlement, it's DVP, right? Delivery versus payment. That means that an asset only moves if and when a payment moves at the exact same time, atomically. Neither side is ever exposed, and funds can get stuck mid-trade. So these are some of the basically things that we were thinking when we're thinking about the architecture of Temple early on. And there are some things that can only be made essentially because of Canton. Like Yanis said, dark pools. This is something that's essentially going to be part of Temple. And we're extremely excited to actually announce, the launch of Temple in the coming days.
Amazing. And then in regards to everything that recently happened, like what can be done differently by exchanges and entities to lessen such an impact across their networks?
Yeah. So I think that on a high level, the more of these events, we get, the more prepared we are for the next ones. In a way, I think that as a builder and having a decent understanding of like network architecture, I would say that building interoperable infrastructure, essentially, so liquidity can move safely across markets is one thing, but also decoupling wallet infrastructure from trading engine. Because if you have all of these things together and something fails, then everything collapses. So I think that decoupling those critical infrastructure pieces is quite essential.
Yeah, and those are very incredible points that you highlighted, in the sense that basically everything that happened yesterday drills back down to, if you think about it, like risk management and risk engines. And looking into this and just tapping into my past experiences as a macro trader and then working one of the top crypto exchanges, is that there needs to be better systems in place that help to reduce leverage and delta while carefully managing the correlations across collateral within different platforms. In a sense that now there are platforms that have implemented portfolio margining across various assets and various trading pairs. But then when dislocations happen, and Yanis and Evan and I were talking about this before the call started, is that depending on where the immediate pricing index or the main pricing source comes from, that main source may be the cascading influential input that causes everything else to cascade. And so those are some of the key things that happens. And then in addition, tapping this back into the risk engine aspect of it, is that being able to have systems that can dynamically adjust pricing, update the haircuts to the collateral, and then also be dynamic enough to make adjustments around listing and delisting assets as the liquidity and correlations change. But then more importantly, and above all of this, is there needs to be continuous overview and oversight with strong core quants and specialists to maintain the parameters and have metrics to make sure these things happen. Because yeah, black swan events happen, but because the crypto ecosystem is still small, and guess what? There's over 100x leverage that people can take. These things will continue to happen. I don't know if you guys have anything else to add about this topic before we move on, but it's quite incredible how this continuously happens. Yeah.
But if you think about it, like we had 20 to 50 billion liquidations, and that was the biggest in history, right? And still, the market, especially the big assets, Bitcoin, whatever, they sign of maturity, I think.
Yeah.
So as Evan said, every time we learn, and it also shows the size of the market, how big it became in the last couple of years.
Yeah. And then to add on to that too, this also goes to show that, like, within our ecosystem, the majority of the assets we have are highly speculative. Right?
Yeah.
Outside of, let's say, like top 3 to 4 assets, everything else is very speculative and has huge run-ups, huge rundowns, but very few of them have the consistent, persistent price stability. And so with Canton, we're building an infrastructure that can help build applications with strong core stability, but then also the asset itself, for example, enabling the settlement of various traditional financial instruments within the Canton ecosystem, is something that can maintain strong core stability, in a sense that we've been actively working on US Treasury digital native trading activity on Canton with the likes of the DTCC, TradeWeb, Virtu, Bank of America, Citadel, and more. The main thing about these types of assets is that they are the under fundamental funding asset across all industries. So should markets be going up, markets be going down, these will keep trading. And guess what? As these are built on Canton, this will sustain strong core activity regardless of market actions. And so that's why, as Evan has mentioned, building on the dynamic blockchain such as Canton that enables for privacy, controls, compliance, and the strong core aspect of interoperability is very valuable. Awesome. So moving forward, so Yanis, putting on your investor hat on now, and you have multiple hats to choose every day, but how do you evaluate blockchain businesses and networks to invest in? Do you have a systematic or a fluid approach to backing founders?
This is Canton specific, I guess, right?
I mean,
like
there's Canton
across-
and there's everything else across your
Yeah.
experience.
So to
How do
me,
you-
as I said, the three things: Bitcoin, Canton, and something in between. And I am only focusing on Canton these days. So I'm going to just specifically talk about Canton. Canton has shifted the whole VC market quite a bit. Because as Evan explained before, the economics of the network are such that companies that have minimal to no funding, but have some technical ability and a good idea, can actually bootstrap, build the idea with no external funding until they hit, some sort of traction. And then anything that we knew about the pre-seed and maybe seed stage funding completely changes, because you really don't really need tons of money to build on Canton, and the network incentivizes you to build. So the moment you get a validator, you really have a very good amount of money coming in that you can fund your business, as long as you're scrappy and lean enough, right? So how do you evaluate that? Given that this has changed, it's always a founder bet. Always, like when you do any kind of venture investment, the way we see it and the way we invest in from the Canton Fund, is always a bet on the founder and always a bet on the network. So we pick the network. The network is now like hyper growth trajectory that we have. Fine. Then you have to see the talent that's coming to build on top of the network, and if they are taking advantage of the uniqueness of this network, or it's a generic Me Too solution, like, oh, I have this on EVM, I'm gonna break this on Canton. This is not something we are particularly interested in investing, and we don't. We do invest in companies that build utilizing the novelties of Canton, and Temple obviously is one example of those. We are investors in Temple, as we are like in 6 or 7 more companies. So I guess things don't really change how you judge a company or a founder at the end of the day as an investor, but the stage and the amount of money that needs to be deployed, they do change within this network. And I think that's fascinating, because I do believe that the VC industry is primed for a massive change. If you think about it, like what value does a Web3 VC adds most of the time? Money is a commodity. You need other kind of stuff, like support, network, resources.
Yep. Got it. Cool. Thanks for that. And then, we're almost, we're getting close to the open question period. But Evan, what do you enjoy most about building in Canton, and what has been the most challenging, and how have you been overcoming such challenges building on Canton? So what do you enjoy the most? What is challenging, and how do you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, that's a good one. I'd say on the challenging side is that the earlier you are in a new ecosystem, the less resources, less precedent, I guess, is there. So you have to bootstrap a lot of these things. But then on the flip side, that's obviously also rewarding because you're early, right? And that's kind of like a known meme in crypto. The earlier, the better. I think that there's a bit of a learning curve with demo, but it's nothing crazy. I think that on a high level, the architecture of Canton itself is something that, coming from EVM, SVM, is kind of like refreshing in a sense, right? Because you get to define permissions on a contract level, which is kind of unique. That doesn't essentially exist in Solidity or EVM networks, which we've spent most of our time on previously. But like on a high level, I think that what excites me the most personally about Canton is that Canton is backed by some of the world's biggest institutions. But like even beyond that, the architecture, which is already validated, the ecosystem that's being built, the names that are like participants in the networks as part of the committee or running validators or building, that's what excites me the most. The fact that we are actually currently experiencing this merge of TradFi with DeFi, in a sense. And that's happening right now. Like Melvis said, there's like trillions and trillions essentially of volume happening on the network. And I thought that we were going to see like the first few steps, let's say, of traditional finance institutions jumping into crypto and blockchain in general back in 2021. That didn't happen. But now I feel like we have more favorable regulatory environments domestically, but also abroad. And obviously that's helping. But then Canton is a no-brainer for like any institution that wants to get started today, not in a future ideal regulatory environment, right? From a compliance perspective. Canton is compliant today, it's private today. And I think that one of the other things that excites me the most, and especially on the Temple side, is that we have this very unique opportunity to kind of disrupt the tooling for capital markets, essentially, right? And power this next evolution of finance that's happening in front of us. And I think that it's going to take the best of TradFi and the best of DeFi to happen for that to happen, right? And let's get me out of bed every day, essentially.
Amazing. Love to hear. Awesome. So we're last two questions for you guys. These are some fun questions to conclude the initial phase of the series. So the first one is for the both of you. Who within the ecosystem would you like us to bring onto the series in the future episodes?
That's a good one. I think the Thai is doing an incredible job with all the tooling that they're also building on the network. I've been close to their team. They're just incredible. Any
Yanis?
thoughts on
Yeah, there are two actually. So I would start with my favorite, which is CBDC, which is they're really bringing Bitcoin onto Canton. To me, is like a dream coming true. And I would love to see how they're gonna do it. And also, I think Evan, you support that on Temple when you go trading live. That would be fantastic. And I also want to see other core infrastructure developers that are building stuff like I don't know. For example, I would love to see a new company coming up called Aximos. They do credentials and CNS verifications and stuff like that, like things that are building blocks.
Yeah. The infrastructure layer for the network. Right?
Correct.
Yeah. Amazing. Cool. And then the second question is, what is something that not many people know about you two that you can share with the community?
Oops. Nice. I'll go first. We're both Greeks, by the way.
Yeah.
So outside of that, I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
Anything.
I'm pretty public in general. I'm a 5 times founder. Grew up in Greece, moved in the US like just 4 years ago. I don't know, honestly. I have a Labradoodle.
Yeah, that's something. There you go.
Probably, I don't know, I don't know if they know that most people assume I'm a finance guy, but I have nothing to do with finance. I'm an engineer. I'm a hardcore builder. I love building. Finance came to me as an accident, another happy accident, I guess. But what I do enjoy the most is actually developing and designing rather than doing finance.
Amazing. Awesome. Great. Thank you, guys. And now we have some questions that came through, and within the next 10 minutes, we'll take as many questions as we can from the community. So for the first one, Evan, when is Temple going to be live?
Next few days. So we're just days out. Essentially, we've been building Temple for like the past 2.5-3 months at this point. working, back to 15-hour days, trying to get everything live, but we're days out.
Perfect. Amazing.
I
And then-
take half of the blame on this because we delayed the SDK launch, but it's fine.
Very soon, yeah. So we'll get it going very soon. And then the next question is, I guess, between the two of you, if Tempo partners with Canton Loop, will the gas fees be cheaper in the future than other wallets?
I think this question goes back to, let me get this, Evan, because I know what they're referring to. So there are two fees on the gas on the network. These are the transaction fees and the traffic fees. So what people see that they're paying on the network is going to go away. Every transaction is going to be pretty much effectively free to do because there was a CRP proposal that we sponsored to actually remove the fees and just make the validators and the apps actually buy the traffic beforehand so they can have the transactions happen. So if the application doesn't charge any extra fees, the gas fees will be effectively zero. I think it needs a couple of weeks. But do you know even when to go live? I'm not sure.
I think it's a week or two out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So to answer this question, it's not just through the partnership with between Temple and Canton Loop, but there's a network-wide update. And this is one of the beauties about Canton in the sense that the foundation and governance is structured in such a way that during the weekly tokenomics committees or even the tech and ops committees, ecosystem-wide issues, topics, discussions get brought up, and the network participants within the foundation contribute to these discussions and make proposals to be voted on by the majority vote from the super validators. So as Yanis mentioned, there was a CIP to adjust this key topic, and it's coming on live. It's coming live quite soon. And this also brings up a question from my end for you, Yanis. How has it been contributing to the governance of the network? Because if you think about other chains, it's typically just a small subset of the initial founders, their immediate validators, and yet no one else can join to help contribute to governance. But in Canton, we have a membership foundation, and then from there, we have the CIPs as well. How has the experience been being part of the board and then the various subcommittees that you contribute to?
I think daily, that would be 20 to 30% of my time would be the committees and contribute to the foundation, which is something we really, and not only me, like Vin is on the other side, Kostas in the third side, we participate in everything we can. And this is the beauty with this network. It's so open that anybody, you don't need to be a foundation member to participate in a committee. Every builder can join, and if it gets voted, they can actually go and participate in the actual governance, right? And everybody can participate in the live streams because every committee is pretty much live on Zoom. So this is exciting to me. It reminds me of the very early Bitcoin days without having, a dictator in the middle that, takes the decisions that happened before. So I would encourage anyone to actually pay attention on how the governance really works. Every vote is public. For example, if you go to Lighthouse, R Explorer, or Canton Explorer, on any other blockchain explorer for Canton Network, we have a section that says governance, and everything that happens on the voting and who votes what is publicly there. So it's very transparent, and it's actually very encouraging to see.
Yep, definitely. And Evan, you're a new member to the governance structure. How does this compare with the other networks you've worked on?
No, I think that piggybacking on what Yanis said, I think that the transparency is incredible. Plus, you see members, being part of the community that are like giants in the industry, which is encouraging. It gives you, shows you credibility essentially in a sense, right? And it's been incredible participating in these committees on a weekly basis, getting basically to see what's coming into the network, essentially weeks ahead of time. So I definitely encourage, especially on the public ones, for anyone to take the time to actually join to see how things are being run, which is just incredible.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And then next question is, why could Canton redefine the financial system forever? I don't know if either one of you guys want to take this one.
I mean, we can both take it. I don't know.
Yeah, you can go. You can
Yeah.
go and I'll tap.
Yeah, no, my 2 cents, I just get too excited about this topic. My 2 cents is that it's not a, if TradFi comes on chain, it's when, and it's actually happening right now. Most of us see it. So I think that there's many benefits like collateral, mobility, 24/7 capital markets, eliminating the T+2. I think just focusing on like the 2, 3, aside of privacy, obviously, and compliance, focusing on these 2, 3 things, that's a massive upgrade to the financial system. And I think that Canton is actually leading that change. And we're going to see most institutions being onboarded in the coming months, quarters. And that's why we're also excited building on top of Canton, because we basically think that it's the best network to do so for the traditional finance
Yeah.
Awesome. And okay, thank you. And the next one is, this is a good one. Can any other blockchain truly match Canton's level of privacy and interoperability?
Okay. Can I take this one? There is no one solution fits all. You have privacy, right, that you choose, privacy that fits private messages, and there is privacy that fits financial markets. And by privacy in financial markets, we mean compliance and auditability. With these two in mind, nobody can match Canton, period. If you are okay and you think that a zero knowledge solution would be fine for you, which is pretty much a patch over an EVM, that won't work. We can go into the details, but imagine that, let's call an auditor, KPMG, comes to check your books. How did you trade there? And you go present them a ZK black box that says, ask my black box. That's not going to fly. That's never going to fly. So just, I can just comment on this part. And if you want to go into the technical discussions, we can do it in another session, but no. And interoperability, we have things coming up, which is EVM compatibility. It's a CIP that got proposed. That would be amazing. So pretty much all the tooling that exists for EVM chains can talk to the Canton network directly without changing a line of code. We cannot execute EVM code, and I don't think this is any proposal that I know of, and probably that will break the network. So I don't think this is going to happen. But we are 100% becoming a very open and accessible network to not only DAML developers, but also to any other developer.
Mm-hmm. Evan, anything else to add on this one?
No, I think Yanis nailed this one. I think that privacy, compliance, auditability are the 3 pillars of, the core pillars of what make Canton great. And I think that it's a combination of those 3 things, not just necessarily privacy by itself, because privacy by itself can be, something negative for capital markets, for example, right? If there's no compliance or auditability, like Yanis said.
Mm-hmm. And then one other thing I want to add about the interoperability piece that is very unique to Canton is that within Canton, every application or Canton or subnet, as you want to call it, it can have its own set of governance, access controls, stability, finality, but then still be able to engage with the global synchronizer to allow its atomic settlement with other applications on the network. This is incredible in the sense that at the end of the day, compared to if you are, for example, if you're a large financial institution and you're looking to issue a bond on a blockchain, and yet there is an NFT or a meme coin or some other asset that is that is basically facilitating all of the activity on the network, guess what? You're inundated on the confirmations, and you have to pay high gas fees, or there may be trades that do not formally settle. The great thing about Canton is that due to its structure, there's unlimited horizontal scaling. And then beyond that too, within your own application, the governance structures or the sub-transaction level privacy and controls that you enable, that is still interoperable in the sense that you can still have access and control to your application, your assets, your community, but still talk to other network applications and assets within Canton natively. And there may be some chains out there that talk about this stuff, but are still in testnet phases. In Canton, we've done this in production. And a perfect case is with the transaction that happened between the DTCC.
Yeah.
Within this activity, there was the DTCC, which had the security asset. There was Circle, which had the stablecoin asset. And then TradeWeb was the trading infrastructure that facilitated the exchange of these trades. And then the different trading firms, Citadel, Virtu, Bank of America, were also there. But in each of their different nodes, were able to atomically communicate to facilitate a need-to-know basis in terms of data and value, and then settle these transactions, even though there may be different access and controls and communications and messaging that happen across them. So the interoperability phase is very, very incredible and unique within our network, and different from the other networks. But I do agree with Yanis in the sense that overall there are different flavors to privacy and interoperability. There's some people that may want everything to be fully public and permissionless, and some that want it to be fully private and permissionless. But the beauty about Canton is you don't need to have this binary trade-off that happens. You have the flexibility of building it to the full view and perspective and nature of your community, and also yourself as a builder.
Yeah.
Let's see, what are the questions? I think. Oh, okay. So another one is does the Loop wallet only store Canton assets, or will you eventually become multi-chain and have other assets within it?
No plans for multi-chain. Canton is the one we're focusing on, and since the other assets we are interested in are coming on Canton, like BTC, we don't plan to do that, at least for now.
Yeah, very good. And then this last question that we've gotten right here, I think we answered it earlier, but as app providers on the network, what is compelling about the tokenomics, and why is this different from other networks? Yeah, what's compelling about the tokenomics to you, Evan? I guess.
Yeah, the rewards are like incredible for application builders, and in general for the network. It's a scalable admission schedule, I guess, that's fair. And the way I see it, like Yanis said earlier, any builder can bootstrap an application on Canton just by essentially relying on future application rewards and their share essentially of being like builders in the network. I think that it makes it compelling. There aren't that many networks, the way I see it, that during their early days had the ability to help founders and teams bootstrap products, unless there's like a grant. And in this case, it feels more structured, I think is the word.
Yeah.
And then for the very last question, so as the centralized exchange listings of Canton Coin becomes imminent and actually happen, how will Temple and Loop respond to the big challenge of competing with all the other popular platforms and applications? So I'm guessing the other large trading dexes and clubs, and also the other big wallets in the ecosystem. How would you handle competing against them?
Yeah.
I think that's what
That's a fair question. I think that we see ourselves as one of the first movers in the Canton ecosystem, natively allowing you to buy, trade Canton coin with size across different pairs. But I think that the way that we're thinking about Temple features and sub products that we're going to be launching in the next few months, the goal for us is to build the plumbing of Canton to support all kinds of assets, tokenized assets, essentially, from like money market funds to equities and everything essentially in between down the road. We're launching with Spot. We're launching with a few assets, but obviously we're going to be growing that list over time. And I think that there's going to be like unique use cases for Tempo and Canton versus third party, off network exchanges. So yeah.
amazing. Yanis, anything else to add?
Yeah, I would just add that don't underestimate UX, because UX is it's the largest attack vector on the crypto, other than some other minor stuff. But I think Evan has an amazing experience on this, extremely consumer minded, and also UX needs to be specific for a platform. So Canton is not an EVM chain, it's not a Sol chain, it's something unique. So yes, competition is great, it's gonna make us even better. But at the end of the day, we build infrastructure. We don't compete on pricing or stuff like that. We're not there yet. It will take a while to get there, and when it's gonna get there, it's gonna be a very happy accident again for everybody, because it means that the network has the attention of everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the beauties and challenges of crypto and blockchains. Yes, these technologies can be and are applications and products, but then the token side also comes in and there's a price to it. So it's like balancing the two and making sure that there's strong core focus on what you can control, which is actually building the product, the community, the user base, and actually the utility of what you're coming in to create is most important. So fully aligned there. Great. And with that, this is the end of the first episode of the State of the Network. I'd like to thank Evan and Yanis. Any last parting words? You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thanks for having us. I think it was great, and it's going to be an incredible series moving forward. No, just one note on our end. We're launching in the coming days, but you can sign up today, go through the KYC, KYB process. A lot of folks have been asking whether we're going to be doing reward sharing. Haven't shared the specifics yet, but that's part of the roadmap shortly after we launch. So definitely encourage everyone listening today to go on templedigitaldgroup.com and just get started with the process. So you're up and running day one, essentially, once we're live.
And I think that also taps to your previous answer, that the economics of the network are such that not only allow you to build the company, but also share part of the success of the company with your actual users.
Yeah, actually bootstrap distribution in a sense, right?
Exactly.
Which is very unique. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, nice.
Amazing. With that, thank you very much. And yeah, we'll keep everyone here in the community updated on who the next guests are and when we'll have the next episode. Thank you.
Great. Thank you
Good
guys.
night.
Bye.
Good afternoon.
Nice.
Good morning.
Okay.
Bye.